listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, if not, this came from one. They all voted on it. It's a punt. But it's coming right back. It has to come to us by state law. But if it didn't, they would have signed. I'm in Kansas. And I know I'm gonna lose. And that's fine. But I'm in Kansas. It's not gonna get paid off. I don't think it's gonna get paid off. They make that motion, but it'll just come back and forth again. Having a unanimous vote on this, it's not going to be unanimous. I think they'll drive it back. Yeah. I just have a question. It's really the only way to do it. Either you want it done or you don't. If you don't want it done, you can argue why we shouldn't do it. And if you do want it done, you can argue why we should do it. Well, also, aside from the de facto ban that this effectively is, and the potential legal ramifications of any sort of binding, there really aren't. And it's not a Dillon rule. A de facto ban does hold legal. It's not a Dillon rule issue. It's already been discussed. States, the localities can use zoning, and there's a bunch of precedent for it. So it's not creating a solution. That's no problem. Well, it is a problem. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a solution. The answer is we don't want a very small constituency. That's very hard. It's not small. Well, an echo chamber constituency. There are plenty of them. Lynchburg is a Christian town. It's a city of churches. You can like it or not. It's also made up of other votes. It is, but you're talking about the minority. The minority wants this. Well, in this case, well, the minority by way of city council. It was a majority that voted to go to plan. Everybody on council claims to be Christian, including his son. To order the Lynchburg Planning Commission for Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. Our first order of business is the approval of our November 13th meetings. Anybody see additions or corrections need to be made?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Great. And now we'll be moving on to hearing petition that is open to public comment. Petitioners or their representatives will be given 10 minutes to present their petition. Subsequent individual citizens wishing to speak will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes, and representatives of an opposition group will be allowed a maximum of 10 minutes. At the end of the public hearing, there will be an allowance of 3 minutes for rebuttals. So your 3 minutes, the timer will go off and you'll hear it beeping. You'll know that's your time. All right, our next order of business is a public hearing on the consideration of amending section 35.2 of the Lynchburg zoning ordinance to create a definition for abortion clinic and to amend the definitions of hospital and medical or dental clinic to authorize abortion clinics by conditional use permit in B3, Community Business District, B5 General Business District, and IN2 Institutional District 2, and to establish specific zoning standards, limitations, and restrictions for abortion clinics. I believe Tom will be presenting this.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tom Martin. I'm the Director of Community Development. Gave Rachel Christmas off, well deserved. I've spent many an afternoon in front of this commission, and it's good to be back with you. So Chair Rogers read what the purpose of the zoning amendments are. It's really to amend these sections to create regulations surrounding abortion clinics. So what I intend to do in my time this afternoon is just to kind of give you a summary of how we got to this point and what the proposed amendments are. So on October 14th of this year, City Council directed staff unanimously to initiate the process of amending the zoning ordinance to regulate abortion clinics. The proposed ordinance amendments were based upon draft language considered by council when they initiated the amendment. So it was a little unusual in that there was a draft ordinance provided to staff to use as a template. So right now, currently in the city of Lynchburg, there's no abortion clinics that we are aware of. Abortion clinics are currently permitted by right as an outpatient care clinic in the B1 Limited Business District, the B3 Community Business District, B4 Urban Commercial District, the B5 General Business District, the IN1 Institutional 1, and IN2 Institutional 2 districts. So what does the proposed ordinance do? First, on page 1, it defines what an abortion clinic is. Then it amends the definition of a hospital to specify that a hospital does not include abortion clinics, as well as medical or dental clinics on page 19. So it defines abortion clinics, and then it goes on to say, okay, if you're in a hospital is not considered an abortion clinic, so the intent of the ordinance is not to regulate abortions that happen in that setting, which is typically the second and third trimesters. It amends the definition of medical or dental clinics to say that also does not include abortion clinics. Moving on, the following sections, the B3 district, B5 district, and the IN2 district, it creates a new land-based classification code of 6512A, which will be an abortion clinic. And those districts are the authorized use sections of those districts, and just specifies that an abortion clinic would be only be permitted upon approval of conditional use permit by City Council. So really the bulk of the regulations are in this new section 35.272.28 abortion clinics. This is where the standards are set. It sets standards for abortion clinics, whether they're the principal use or an accessory use. And that's on page 80 of your draft ordinance. It again lays out that these types of establishments would only be allowed by a conditional use permit in the B3, B5, and the IN2 districts. And then it starts setting the location criteria that the abortion clinic shall not be located within 1,000 feet of all these different things. So it's essentially our residential districts. It's the 5th Street Revitalization Corridor Overlay District, the city's historic districts, James River Arts and Cultural District, churches or other places of worship, public libraries, any public or private schools, kindergarten through high school, public parks, children's museum, child care day centers, or motels or hotels. And then it goes on to state that the standards would apply to any new relocation, enlargement, conversion of any establishment as an abortion clinic. Since the city currently has none of these types of establishments, it would apply to new clinics. Then the ordinance amends Appendix A, Table of Authorized Land Uses. And what Appendix A is a collection of all of the different authorized uses. It breaks them out by district. So it's just, again, stating that these type of establishments would only be permitted by conditional use permit in B3, B5, and IN2 districts. So that's the bulk of the ordinance. So what are the key differences between what council submitted and what is presented to you to consider this evening? First, I will say, again, council directed staff to initiate these proceedings. I think they were very clear in their direction that they wanted to regulate these types of facilities. It's staff's role in this is to make sure that whatever is adopted is enforceable and defensible. And that's the way we looked at it. Okay. So we also did have conversations with the patron of the original ordinance, just to let them know what our thinking was. So we removed the IN1 institutional district. And the reason for that is the institutional 1 districts are for small institutions located primarily within or adjacent to residential areas. Well, if your location standards are 1,000 feet from a residential area, there's no logic in allowing them in an IN1 district because they're not going to meet the location standard. And then the addition of the B3 Community Business District and the addition of the B5 General Business District is really to open up more areas of the city and to make the ordinance more defensible in case it's ever challenged. So this ordinance does not create a ban on these types of facilities, but it does regulate the location of these types of facilities. We also amended the proposed definition of abortion clinic to exclude family planning services. That's a enforceability issue because if you have family planning services that are allowed by right, there needs to be the understanding that it also does not include an abortion clinic. And then the adding of the motel or hotel went along with the adding of the B3 and B5 district, and then changing the word business to establishment. That's also an enforceability issue to make sure that one couldn't argue that a nonprofit is not a business. So it was changed to establishment. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions about the proposed language. But again, our role was purely in the looking at the ordinance from an enforcement standpoint and also defensible.
Great, thank you. Since there isn't a group that's presenting this, we'll go on ahead and ask for public comment now. So if you're in support of this and you want to speak, now's the time to come forward, state your name, sign on the form, and would like to hear public comments. Anybody in support of this? Okay, please come forward. You'll see a form there to sign and state your name.
Hi, is that close enough? Okay. Hi, my name is Thomas Hill. I represent Virginia for Preborn Justice, and I'm a college student at Liberty University. I'm here to speak in favor of this because I think it is really common sense that with a place as controversial as an abortion clinic, a place that regularly dismembers, suctions, starves preborn children to death, that is something that should be brought before the city council for specific approval before coming. I also think that, it's very important that we ensure that abortion clinics are not placed in places near schools, near churches, near other facilities like that. When we have this type of mass genocide going on in the country, when you're seeing millions of preborn children being killed every year, I think we have a responsibility to take whatever steps we can to regulate and that. And I think this is a great way to do that by at least giving citizens a say through their city council members on if they want an abortion clinic in Lynchburg, and ensuring that there's no surprise abortion clinics. I know just about an hour from here in Vinton, Virginia, they had a similar a situation where an abortion clinic was ended up being built there against the will of a lot of the citizens. Even the city council was unaware until after the fact, and there was nothing that could be done. And so I think taking this type of common sense action is really important. We have a responsibility to stand up for all members of our human family, and that includes the preborn. And I think this is a great step towards doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other people here to speak in support of this petition? Okay, anybody here to speak against this petition? Great, if you'd please come forward. Again, your name and sign it, please.
Good looking reading it. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. I can certainly appreciate the difficulty this was for the Planning Department in the city to address this ordinance. It's a very complicated issue, and I'm going to try to stay away from the moral aspects of it. It seems to me that this issue is a solution in looking for a problem. That we don't have the problem in Lynchburg. We haven't had the problem in Lynchburg. And why would we make a significant amendment to the zoning ordinance to create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist? We have better things to do with our time. It is a divisive issue. It will continue to be a divisive issue. And I particularly think that our city council, and I'm going to say this to you, but I think our city council would better spend its time on doing the service to the community as opposed to spending time on these issues that are clearly national in origin. So staying away from the moral aspect, again, I believe this is a solution that's looking for a problem that doesn't exist in the city. That said, I'd like to say that the ordinance as originally drafted and still seems to be drafted really intends to eliminate abortion clinics, eliminate the opportunity for abortion clinics in Lynchburg. And I will tell you something I learned from an evangelical pastor many years ago when I was in my hometown and working at a radio station. I was a disc jock, believe it or not, for a while. And on Sundays, I got to know some of the evangelical pastors who would come in and do programs at our small AM station. When we were developing a liquor store, when there was a movement to put a liquor store in our small town, and I'm from a small town in Southwest Virginia, most people were against it. Most churches were against it. And the reality was when this one evangelical pastor stood up in a meeting and said, I am for it because I don't want people to have to drive 35 miles to another county for a liquor and then drive back. That's a problem. I think when we deny people the medical needs that they have in a community, when we're attempting to do that, especially women in this particular situation, by forcing them to go outside the area, I think that's a problem in all circumstances. Thank you very much.
Could you please state your name? I'm sorry.
Jeffrey Smith. Sorry, I apologize. Jeffrey Smith. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, please come forward. You should see a place to sign there. State your name.
Hi, my name is Risa Hayes. I live in Ward 1. for this issue, I could stand up here and talk about how important reproductive health is for women, but I don't think you would care. I can talk about how important any medical care is, and limiting it would be detrimental to people's health. But again, I don't think you care. So what I'm going to talk about is something that I think you all will care about, which is waste, fraud, and abuse. The three things that are often quoted by people who tend to be against abortion clinics. The first is waste. This is a waste of time. This is a waste of money. This is a waste of everyone's gas prices to get here because it is not an issue. There are 0 abortion clinics in Lynchburg. There are 0 that are trying to come to Lynchburg, so we are wasting energy. The second is fraud. This is a fraud because it is a non-issue. So they're creating a problem to get people riled up and to put a political stunt because elections are next year. I strongly believe that the whole reason this is brought forward is so that someone can stand there for their re-election and go, look at what I did. I protected Lynchburg from all the evil abortion clinics when we don't have any and there are 0 coming. And then finally, abuse. This is abuse of zoning policies. Yes, it is legally allowed to pass this kind of zoning ordinance, but let's be real. This is abuse of the loose wording of the laws. You know that this is not what these laws are put in place for. You know that this is not the intent of the law. Maybe wording you can pass it, but we know that the spirit of the law has nothing to do with limiting access to medical care. And that's what abortion care is. It's medical. And even if it wasn't a problem in that aspect, we know that there is an amendment that is most likely going to pass the House, Senate, and the governor coming up that will make reproductive freedom a constitutional protected right here in the state of Virginia. So if you pass this now, do you think that the ACLU and other organizations are not going to sue the city to undo this ordinance when we have a constitution protection? So we're just opening the city up to lose thousands of dollars in lawsuits in less than a year. So I strongly believe that this is, again, a waste of our time, a fraud for re-election, and abuse of power. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Pat O'Hara. I'm a resident of Ward 4. It's been interesting hearing what other concerned citizens have had to say this evening. I was actually quite surprised when I learned yesterday that there was a proposal to amend this piece of local legislation, considering that we don't actually have any abortion clinics. We haven't had any abortion clinics in town for a while, and I highly doubt we'll have any abortion clinics for a while. My big concern here today is how this type of legislation and redefining what an abortion clinic is in town would affect the ability for a business to potentially, build an establishment here in town. I feel like it's just targeting unnecessarily and unfairly this type of institution. My biggest concern, however, comes to how this would affect women's health care in states where abortion is banned. Women die at a higher rate during pregnancy, during childbirth, and also after childbirth, because doctors are reluctant to provide that life-saving care in the event that they would end up getting sued or having their medical license revoked for providing that life-sustaining care. Also looking at other civil codes in the area, I noticed presently abortion clinics would need to be 1,000 feet away from a number of establishments. And that was a really long list in the monitor of all these different locations where abortion clinics can't be. So it seems like it's just writing laws that make it nearly impossible to build abortion clinics. But what concerned me even more is that the legal requirement for how far away from schools sex offenders would need to be is 500 feet. So in actuality, it seems like this change in policy shows that the city is more concerned about denying women reproductive health care than protecting our children from registered sex offenders. So thank you for your time, and I'm done.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I am Jennifer Staten. I am a resident of Ward 1. I too am here to oppose this. I do not think that council sent it to you because they were in support of this strict of legislation. I think they sent it to you because they think it is their job to let you figure it out, whether it's a good thing for our city. They always send things to you guys for opinions. And sometimes you say yes, sometimes you say no. So I'm really hoping that as you guys advise on this, you will tell them no, that this is not a good decision for Lynchburg. As everybody else said, it's a non-issue right now. I can remember back to the early 2000s when we did have a Planned Parenthood in Lynchburg. Even then, it was not an abortion clinic. It was just a doctor's office that was free. And even that facility basically ran out of Lynchburg. And I, to my knowledge, as a proud person that supports Planned Parenthood and women's reproductive health rights, I have not heard even the slightest mention of anybody wanting to try to come back to Lynchburg, because there's just more convenient places for them to have a clinic than somewhere where there's going to be such protest and pushback. So I really, like everybody else said, we're making this a non-issue. Specifically, like I said, I live in Ward 1. I live in Locksview, right by Paul Monroe Elementary School. My kids walk to school every day of elementary school almost. It was an awesome thing about being there. And that's how my neighborhood is. We walk to school. Almost everybody who lives in my neighborhood, even some people up on Gorman and other parts of Boonesboro, take pride in getting up early and walking to Paul Monroe. As Pat said when he spoke, the rule for sex offenders is 500 feet from schools. There's no other limits that I know of except for where they work and where they live. And so in my neighborhood, I printed out a map because I did want to show you. Our neighborhood was pretty upset when we popped up on that sex offender registration a few years ago for a man that newly moved to our neighborhood and had 10 counts possessing obscene materials with minor felonies. He was from Fairfax and he moved to Lynchburg right after his release. The counts were in 2016, so we're not talking, something 50 years ago. We're talking about something in the last 10 years. Anyway, I printed out maps. I want to show you guys what this 500 feet looks like in relationship to an elementary school. And if you're sending this message, if this is the message that council wants to send, you are telling the citizens of Lynchburg that you prioritize denying women health care more than you prioritize protecting children. So I really, at very least, change that 1,000-foot message.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Do you want a copy of that?
Yes.
Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in opposition? Okay. Do we have emails or voicemails?
We have one voicemail.
All right. Is that something we can play? Thank you.
Hello, members of the Planning Commission. I am Ashton Badnell, a Lynchburg City resident residing in Ward 2 on Denver Avenue. I am a mom to one and have another on the way very soon in February. I'm calling in regards to proposed zoning amendments being discussed today, amending section 35.2 of the Lynchburg City zoning ordinance. I stand in strong opposition to the proposed change. It is clear to me from proposed new section 35.2 to 72.28 that this is intended as a total ban on any abortion clinic operating in Lynchburg. And there is not, to my knowledge, a location that is not within 1,000 feet of a residential district, historic district, arts and cultural district, church, library, school park, children's museum, daycare, or hotel. I understand that you and many others in the city may be opposed to abortion on principle, and that is understandable. We are not talking about morals in this instance. We are talking about access to an equipped medical facility when a procedure is performed. A simple outpatient procedure that could safely be performed at a number of medical facilities and not for the controversy it faces. I read a story out of Texas where a woman was told that her baby had anencephaly. It was developing without a skull. This baby had no chance of surviving, but because it still had a heartbeat, this woman was faced with a choice. Carry to term, give birth, and all the physical trauma that entails, and watch your baby die or leave, not just her city, but in this case, her state. Travel to a state with access to the procedure and end the pregnancy sooner for the sake of the mother's health and sanity. Either way, the baby dies. Either way, the mother grieves. The differences are how much her body has to go through and how far she has to travel. There was another story, this one on TikTok, out of the same state, where a woman who was high risk was told by her doctor to leave the state and spend her final trimester in a state with access to health care. She did not want her baby, she wanted her baby desperately, she did not want an abortion. But if her baby did not make it, the doctors in Texas would have had to wait until she was near death to help her. And she wasn't likely to survive that game of chicken. If an abortion was needed, not wanted, needed, it would be of the essence to keep her alive. She cried on video, she said she was terrified because she couldn't afford to spend possibly months out of state for a number of reasons. The simple reality is that abortion is an outpatient healthcare procedure and access to it when necessary is vital to the health and safety of women and to the community. If just one Lynchburg woman dies and leaves behind her children because your zoning proposal demanded she travel for the procedure and she didn't make it, you will have failed your community, you will have failed to stand up for family values, and you will have failed to stand up for the downtrodden as God calls you to do. My closing thought is that access to healthcare in Lynchburg is better than many small towns in this country, and it still isn't great. We should not be making strides to limit access by statute. We should be attempting to attract qualified healthcare facilities and professionals as much as we can. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment now, and we can begin deliberation.
Okay. I have a question, just to clarify. There's a lot of discussion up here about, are we looking for a solution to a problem that doesn't exist? I think it'd be good if it's possible to state the problem that we're trying to address, just for clarification.
Is that for Tom?
Well, for Tom Martin or, yes, city.
So I'm not sure the problem. The purpose of the ordinance is to amend the zoning ordinance to regulate abortion clinics. Albeit there's none existing now, new clinics. So that's the purpose of the ordinance. My understanding is that council would want to be able to regulate where these types of facilities could be located. And that's why they put forth the ordinance.
Couple of things. So I'm starting one, couple of claims that might be misrepresenting things a little bit. One, the claim that this is a solution in search of a problem. And I think that young man who spoke earlier about Vinton put a little clearer point on that. Abortion clinics are not the type of thing that's put to a vote before they're built. They crop up like a mushroom in your community. It's a surprise. So language like this is specifically designed to be preventative. You can't go back later and address it once it's already in place. So that's the first thing. Second thing is this is being presented as having been sent to us by a minority of city council members, that this was just sent to us to do some unstated thing. And that is not accurate either. This was sent to the Planning Commission in conjunction with city staff for the purpose
of writing amendment language to address this as a potential problem, the kind of problem that crops up when you don't expect it. So it was not 6-1, it was 7-0 to send it to city staff to write the language that is designed to be preventative. So two things that might not be entirely accurate. It was not a minority. It wasn't sent to us to make the decision. This is a city council decision. So second, this amendment's appearing before the Planning Commission as just an advisory body to city council. We are not elected. Right? We're appointed by city council. It's little more than a formality apart from getting up here to give our own opinions on these things, which I'm sure most of us are happy to do to some degree. And I wrote these things down just so I wouldn't forget. As I've gotten older, it's gotten harder to remember some of these things. All right. So we're just an advisory body, and it's little more than a formality that is required before it's finally referred to and voted by city council. And there may be an effort to table this because members on this planning commission may not like this, or members of city staff may not like it, but the fact remains we're not elected, and the city has done what they were appointed to do. It's being forwarded to us by city council. That is also the reason the city is not taking an advisory stance on this. And if you notice when Tom Martin here spoke, that normally when the city makes a recommendation on something, it's one way or the other. City recommends it or they don't. They're not taking a stand in this case. And that is because this language came directly from city council in a it didn't come to us in a 7-0 vote. It came to the city staff in a 7-0 vote. City staff has done exactly what was asked of them by city council, an indirect discussion with them. Therefore, I make a motion that we approve and forward this amendment on to city council in its present form, since the language of it is reasonable, was specifically requested by city council, it fulfills its design purpose, and it was tailored by city staff in conjunction with members of city council to be precisely what it is. It is theirs and not ours to pass or fail.
Well, there is a motion on the floor. I think we can ask a question, for clarification,
Just from a clarification point of view, you mentioned that all of city council prepared this to send to.
7-0.
Yeah, no, I know the numbers. But who actually authored this proposal, and was it signed by all in terms of the authorship, or was it?
I asked you how many parties were involved in preparing it.
I
know of at least 4.
I'm talking to Tom.
That's okay. You ain't asking a question.
Not talking to you though.
Okay.
My understanding is that there was, it was put on the agenda by at least one council member. The entire council considered the language that was set forth, and all 7 of them voted to move it forward. So, all of them voted to move that language forward, not different language, but that language.
So this isn't necessarily true that all of city council worked together to prepare this.
I didn't say that. They don't produce all the legislation they produce, but they all vote on it.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of nuance to your language there.
I don't think so. They all voted to send it to staff and it says it in here.
No, I
to
saw
prepare the language.
that.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that when you say that all of city council wanted this proposal, that's not necessarily true.
They voted to send it?
No, of course they did. That's part of their job.
That's about as yes as you get with an elected body.
So,
Unanimous.
a question, one of the things I remember watching the city council meeting, and one of my issues with this has to do with some of the language, which I think is very concrete in here, but there was a little flexibility. But before we go too far, I believe we need to address the motion and see if there's a second before we continue on. And if there's a second, we can continue discussion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Before we vote, then we need to have discussion on that. Any comments before we put that to the vote?
Would you like to speak on your second?
I think, the language in here is very reasonable with the changes, and where have vulnerable communities, whether it be churches or schools. Certainly, they need to not be in the proximity, with those type of institutions and school bodies.
So my question before we vote is I'd like to see a map of, for example, one of the numbers thrown out when this was initially brought in the city council, there were two numbers. It initially was 1,000, and then the council member said, actually maybe 750. So I'd like to see, and I do hear this 500 foot limit as well. I'd like to see what that looks like at 1,000 feet, what kind of possibilities there are.
So we don't have a map at 500 feet, but we do have a map at the 1,000. So the green areas that you see are basically the prohibited areas.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Prohibited. That's because it's either 1,000 feet from a residential district or one of those other things listed in the ordinance. As you can see, the area primarily between Candler's Mountain Road, and I believe that is Oddfellows Road, generally from the expressway to 460, that area could, these types of facilities could locate there. And then also there are some properties zoned B3 or B5 out towards Forest Road going out into the county, which is, you see Lakeside Drive, that's directly west, that red and brown there. So it's about approximately 20 or so parcels now where they could locate by conditional use permit. That's not to say that if someone really wanted to locate one of these, they couldn't come in and petition to rezone a parcel in that area and request a conditional use permit. We have that happen all the time where people come in, ask to rezone and get the conditional use permit. So there are areas where they would be permitted by CUP, not a large area, but there are areas.
And no map of the 750.
We council proposed 1,000 feet. That's what we based it upon.
Do you know the basis of the 1,000 feet, why they chose 1,000 and not 990 or?
I do not know.
Yeah, okay.
I can say we do have at least two other, and they may not be good examples, but two other uses in the zoning ordinance, airports and heliports that do have a 1,000-foot buffer requirement.
With regard to the comprehensive plan, does this align or misalign or?
Well, I think the comprehensive plan is obviously the document that the city would use to craft its zoning ordinance around. What I wrote in the staff report, quoted the comp plan, is to promote the economic vitality of commercial corridors and efficient use of employment areas through coordination of public and private sector investments to continue to enhance their function and attractiveness and protection of the areas from encroachment of uses that would inhibit their efficient use. Look, not getting into the debate on whether they should or should not be permitted or by conditional use permit, I think it's a given fact that from a land use perspective, they are controversial. And since they are controversial, there is opportunities for protest, counter protest, this and that. Is that a good thing to have near all those types of uses? Is that a good thing to have in our commercial areas? Probably not. But that's one thing that you consider, and that's really the only thing that I could point back to in our comprehensive plan.
Did or does the city, cause for like a risk assessment to be completed on, number one, I guess, is like the legality of this, and if we were to move forward with these changes, would the city be at risk for a lawsuit in the future? Or?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, I think the city's at risk for a lawsuit for any zoning change that you do. Again, staff's entire role in this was to make it as enforceable and defensible as we could, and that's what we presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any other comments?
As it relates to the motion.
Yeah. Dave?
I guess I'm always trying to look at this from the role of the planning commission, and that's a appropriate land use role. And it seems like in this case, we're moving beyond that a little bit and trying to get more into a legislative type role. And, you know, there's a lot of green on this map. And it seems like if we're trying to stop something from happening, we just need to say that's what we're doing and not come up with buffers and lists and other things that are basically allowing that to happen.
I think the challenge in this case is you open yourself up to political and legal and politically oriented legal attacks when you do that. This, using zoning to keep, whether it's this or tattoo parlor or whatever else you want out of a given area, let's state it. We don't want these in the city. This is a preventative approach by city council to do this, right? So the way you can do that is by using zoning. Zoning is out of the reach of the Dillon rule. In other words, it doesn't have to go. You can't be sued by anyone at the state level because this is something cities are authorized, specifically authorized to do. They are one of the few exceptions to the Dillon.
Yeah, I see your point. I think the issue comes back to distance. And, you know, for example, here we have a hospital area, and it would make sense that something would be located near there. But it doesn't look like it's green. Well, I think that there's, you know, that's why I'm not getting into the issue of whether you want them. It's really about the use of the land. And I think the same thing for, you know, whether it's a dispensary. You know, I think there's certain things that a lot of people might say, well, I don't like this, but, you know, I'm apt not to support this simply because I think that distance restriction is a little bit more broad than would be. Well, I think even with the smaller, less distance, it would probably still do what it's designed to do. And the question would be, is that going to happen either way? But that kind of be the way I would lean.
Well, and there's other uses that have been mentioned, vape shops, tattoo parlors, adult bookstores. I mean, let's just keep adding to the list, right? And at what point do we stop, right?
Well, we can do those things. At some point, it comes before the elected body, though, and whether it's Democrats or Republicans.
So
The city's elected Republicans for now, and Republicans are doing what they do. When Democrats are in charge, and they were for 20 years, they did what they wanted to do.
So I did have one question before we vote. This probably be directed at Tom. Just as a refresher, so this would come, let's say if this city council passes this, no matter what we do, they can make their choice. And then a conditional use comes up. So the planning commission would hear that conditional use. And who frames the conditions?
Typically, they are in the beginning framed by staff, but then planning commission and council itself always has the ability to add or amend conditions during the process.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, I believe, do you have anything else you want to say, Dave?
I mean, we talk about the root of this not being rooted in morality, but this just stinks of a moral argument without much teeth at the enforcement side of things. But I mean, I would just say that I don't believe we have the necessary information to make a proper ruling on this. This ordinance creates excessive thousands of barriers from nearly all residential, institutional, cultural districts and from numerous community facilities. It does raise legitimate planning questions about whether any feasible sites remain available, and if so, where are they located? We cannot properly evaluate compatibility, economic impact, or community effects without seeing an analysis. So I am not in favor of voting in favor of this proposal.
Right. All right, well, final statement. I think it's a tough one because I think you can, vote, as I mentioned one other time, you can vote for it or against it, and it doesn't, either way, it can be misconstrued as your value system, but we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor of this, of moving this forward, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, so let me see. 4?
Opposed.
Okay, all right, so it's 4 to deny, and it'll move to city council. So again, this is a difficult one, and I feel like we've been kind of put in an awkward position, but Tom, you had something to say?
Chair, just if I could confer with Hope Towns from the attorney's office. So just to be clear, the motion was to approve. That motion failed. So does that mean that it is going forward to council as denied?
Okay. And I will say this, I think given the nature of this, it may be more appropriate to do a voice vote because I couldn't keep track of who did what. So I will ask for myself. I did not completely hear. So you're saying that the motion on the table was to
Forward under current language.
to go forward on current language.
To approve. To approve it as current language. Yes.
To approve it as current
And forward
language.
to- yes.
Okay.
And
And
that motion failed to the full.
current language failed to the fore. All right.
So does the end result mean that that's moving forward as a recommendation for denial since the motion failed?
Based on the motion saying going forward as written, and I take that basically, then it sounds like it'd be a denial as written.
Okay, I just want to be clear.
The recommendations, yes, as written.
Just like to be clear. Thank you. I appreciate that. So
Would you like a voice vote? Want to go back and do that?
I think that would be helpful to clarify this as you go forward in the future, just to make it clear where the vote stood.
How do we do that?
We're voting to move forward under current language. I just accept and move forward to city council under current language. My vote is yes.
No.
Mr. Gagnon, no. Mr. Cox?
No.
No. Mr.
Henderson, no.
Rogers, no.
Yes.
Peralt, no.
All right. Mr. Woodson, did you?
Yes, to move forward.
Yes, all right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
From a procedural perspective, I heard it says this goes back to council. I'm assuming they'll have more deliberation.
Yeah, they will have a public hearing just as you did. I believe that will be at the second meeting in January.
Do we have any other business?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Someone have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Smith?
All right, thank you. We'll all, no opposition, we will leave. Thank you.
this week. Are you from this area?
Oh, yeah.